Moms in the crowd, I bet you read What to Expect when you were expecting, right? Maybe even saw the movie. I know I went on to read many, many more books because I wanted to feel ready and prepared. But we heard from our friends what was lurking around the 2-year-old corner, right? The dreaded change, the moment when our perfect little angel flipped the inevitable switch. And I can remember the day as if it was yesterday. We were at our preschool, and our sweet, kind, caring little man, so proud of the fun he had just had at preschool, comes marching out the door. And then the moment, dun dun dun, when he has to put on his coat and go home. You would have thought I was suggesting something really horrible, but he lost it. He was screaming, he was crying, he was freaking out. It was crazy. Has anyone ever read the book Thomas's Snowsuit? I want you to think back to the image in that book of the mom clearly frazzled, at her wit's end. And she is sweating profusely, her hair is disheveled, and she's in a full-blown wrestling match with a toddler who has more strength than humanly possible against a fully grown woman. This was me and my son. And we were having it out. We were in the WWF, otherwise known as TTWF, Toddler Tantrum Wrestling Face-Off. It was a moment of pure hell and frustration and anger for both of us. Oh, and did I mention that I had just had a new baby a couple months ago, and I was carrying around one of those bucket car seats? So imagine all that in top of this moment. So here we are having this huge battle, and all the while I can feel the judgment behind me. Was I a bad mom? Did I do something wrong to set him off? Why was he acting this way? He knew it was cold outside. He knew it was time to go home, that we needed to get the coat on. Why? I was so mad. I was so angry and frustrated, and he was angry and frustrated, and we did this little dance. And so finally, I get him out to the car, and we have to go for round 2 because he is hell-bent on going in that car seat. Anyone ever seen that? The kid's like hell-bent. And so I wrestle with him once more and get into my own seat and burst into tears. Totally disappointed in the way that I handled the moment. Totally guilty and ashamed, sad, angry, filled with self-hatred that I had this moment with my precious little man. And I cried all the way home. You know, it's interesting. This may not be a story like some of the others maybe shared here tonight of death or loss, sadness, illness, but I believe that there are many people who have experienced this before, because there are millions of toddlers, right? There are millions of toddlers. And this roller coaster of emotion that is parenting, I felt in that moment like I wasn't quite getting it right. You know, the blessing of parenthood is that it's highly likely that we're going to get a do-over, right? But unfortunately for me, none of the variables had changed. I still had a 2-year-old son who was very tired after preschool. He was very hungry, and he was mad that I was going to pull him away from playing with his friends. So we did this little dance yet again. And he would get angry and roll on the floor, and we would have this fight, and then I'd buckle him in and cry the whole way home and beat myself up. My friends, the variable that really needed to change, that hadn't changed yet, was me. I was drained, emotionally and mentally exhausted. I was providing much of the care for my 2 children around the clock, completely exhausted, completely tired, really lacking in nourishment and brain power. And This was a huge challenge. Thankfully, I had been taking quality prenatals at the time, but I wasn't eating. I was barely sleeping. I hardly had a moment for me. And my self-talk was awful. On the outside, my health may have looked okay, but my cup was seriously empty. I knew that for things to change, I had to change. And so I made some shifts. I decided that I was going to do some things, and to you it may seem like these are really minor things, but they actually made a really big difference for me. I started only doing the dishes once per day. Yep. And I loaded that dishwasher full. Do you know how much is made up of toddler and baby dishes? It's amazing how much these two little people could produce. I only had a tidy house some of the time, but my house was not uber clean. I started napping when they were napping, and I started trying to go to bed a little bit earlier so that I would get a little bit of time asleep myself before night feedings would start. And this was really important. I made time for other women, other moms, so I could have my own sanity. I was already moving my body a lot with my wellness business, but I needed to also fuel my heart and my mind and my soul with some good content. So I started to listen to motivational CDs. We didn't have podcasts back then. This was so important for me to remember who I was, that I was a good person, that I was a good mom, and that I was enough. You know, I started to become more consistent with my health habits. And I'll tell you the truth, I'm still not great at putting myself first. But one thing that I did do was I made my health a priority over my household chores. And this opened up a bit of time that was desperately needed for me. So there are 3 big learnings that I had in this. The first one is that whether you are 2, 22, 42, 62, you get it. We all have meltdowns. And you know what it's related to? Our well-being. So if you are overworked, you've got all these people who are reporting to you, you've got all these emails, you're overstressed, you barely are sleeping, you're hardly eating, it maybe isn't that great of food, and then you're lacking some nutrients, you feel overtired and stressed constantly. Someone says you need to go run over here and do this or do that, you feel rushed, you feel totally out of control. Oh, and the moment when you finally get a moment just for yourself and you're constantly interrupted. Anyone relate? All of these moments could cause a meltdown, right? All of them. And this is why self-care is so important. Because the reality is that you have this impact on the people that matter the most to you in the moments that matter the most, if your well-being isn't where you want it to be. The second thing that I learned is in this roller coaster of emotion that is parenting, with the highs and lows, the difference that we can make for that other person whose kid is having a meltdown is to simply say, hey man, this sucks. I've been there. You're not alone. And lastly, the thing that I learned is that if we want to show up as a better person, if I want to show up as a better version of myself, and I want to show up as a better parent, I need to take care of me. Put the oxygen mask on first. You know, a friend of mine I lost last April taught me so much. She shared in her passing that life is short, gone in a moment. And the season of tantrums is short. My friends, if we could just pat ourselves on the back for all of the amazing things that we are doing, the moment where you made that healthy meal, Pat yourself on the back. For that moment that you went for the brisk walk, pat yourself on the back. And for every moment where you have shared, the moment that you have shared love and compassion with someone in your life, these are the moments for me, my friends, that are filling up my cup. So that I have the love, the joy, the encouragement, the patience to pour into others. Thank you.